After that one, take a test. Music.
बंद है बंद है इसको ये कर ऑटोमेटिकली एक्सेस वॉल्यूम को बंद कर हाँ अच्छी 25 मिनट तुमको लगाया ठीक है तो
Do you want to hello check. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Check. Hello, check. Check 1, 2, 3. Hello, check. Hello, check 1, 2, 1, 2. Audio output. क्या है? Hello. Test. Check. Hello. Check. Test. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hello. Check. Hello. Check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Audio check. Hello. Check. Music mode on. Hello. Check.
ऑन ही है तो बंद करना
Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Hello. Check. Hello. Check. এটা একবার ঠিক করে খুলে লাগান। Hello. Check. ভালো করে করো।
हेलो हेलो এখানে তো আসছে তো
Check 1, 2.
हेलो 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 चेक हेलो हेलो हाँ ঠিক আছে তো हाँ
Hello, check 1, 2, 3, 4.
In maybe say in 30-35 seconds. So Mr. Sharma, you are there. Thank you for joining us. We are starting the fireside chat session with Mr. V.S. Sharma, MD JSPL on coal gasification enabler for clean energy future. And the moderator is Mr. Atanu Mukherjee, President and Chief Executive Officer, Emin Dostur, and member of our Minerals and Mining Committee, the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I would request Mr. Atanu Mukherjee to kindly take it forward from here, sir.
Thank you, Arnav. Thank you, Mr. Sharma, for joining. I think it's indeed a privilege, and it's an exciting area to talk about in terms of gasification of coal and how it enables a clean energy future. I think we all understand that gasification of coal, which converts coal to something called syngas or coal gas, can be put to a wide variety of use for producing chemicals, energy, and materials. Coal gasification eliminates harmful emissions and produces syngas, which can be used to produce chemicals, energy, and derivatives and materials. One such material is iron, which, when produced by using syngas, has superior quality, sustainability, and economics compared to other routes of DR-based iron production. In fact, direct reduction production of iron produces 1.6 tons of CO2 per ton of iron produced, compared to 1.9 to 2 tons of CO2 per ton of iron through blast furnace route. DR through gasification also substitutes imported coal-based BF route of iron with domestic coal. That means, at current prices, India imports about $78 billion of coking coal for BF-based steel production, a lot of which can be replaced using DR. There's also probably an opportunity to upgrade current secondary steel production and the current secondary steel industry, which produces over 40% of steel, with gasification-based DR processes. We would start the conversation with the pioneering work that was done by JSPL in the gasification of coal for new iron production. And we have Mr. P.R. Sharma, who's the director for Jindal Steel Power. A short brief on Mr. Sharma. Prior to joining JSPL, he was the group CEO of Abu Khair Group on managing steel, power, cement, and mining business. And previously, he was Deputy Managing Director and CEO of Jindal Steel Power Limited. He has also worked as an Executive Director of Ispat Industries, Joint MD and Whole-Time Director of Bhushan Group, and worked in various management positions for steel companies overseas, including Social Steel in Libya, Wyatt Group, and Orascos Steel in Spain. Extremely passionate about steel, Mr. Sharma has given 36 years to the industry while leading multi-locational steel, power, cement mining corporations. With that, Mr. Sharma, it's a pleasure to invite you to the chat, and I would like to kind of like start with a few, perhaps, questions. And I would like to understand, I think the audience would like to understand, that JSPL has been a pioneer in fuel gasification in India, and it's probably the first one to use full gasification steel. Tell us a little bit more about the plant and technology used for full gasification to produce high-quality steel at JSPL.
Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to speak to all of you and inform you as to what we have done in the field of gasification. As you all know that India is a very rich country in terms of minerals availability in the country, be it iron ore, be it coal, be it any other raw materials India is having in abundance. But the right time has come today to convert the Indian coal into syngas or synthesis gas. So, we conceived this project in the year 2007, and we visited at that time Sasol of South Africa, and we found that they have been doing a good job in terms of converting coal into liquids, and coal into, liquid means coal into HSD, that is diesel, as well as petrol, benzene, and even up to the last miles of petroleum products, that is olefins. So this was something a great learning for us. After that, we visited a couple of plants in China, and we found that there are not many companies in China, those who are converting coal into syngas and coal into finally for fertilizers and also producing power. So we thought that why not to utilize this syngas to produce DRI, and which does not need any reformer, because this is already a reformed gas and which has very less amount of sulfur. So we put up this plant in the collaboration and technical process now collaboration with Lergi of Germany, and we put up 7 gasifiers of 45,000 NMQ each. Total production capacity is now 225,000 NMQ per hour, and the sulfur contents, the free sulfur in the gas is less than 2 ppm. Normally it is 0.05 ppm, but The designs are 2 ppm. And we have active salt process. Then we have byproducts like ammonia is a byproduct, sulfur metal as a byproduct. Then phenol is a byproduct. So these and the tar is a byproduct. So these are very expensive byproducts which we produce along with the process, and then we sell it in the local market, and which fetches a good amount of revenue to us. And then we had a plan that, okay, partly we will convert coal into methanol and also finally coal into liquids. So we were assigned some mines, that is steam coal mines nearby Angul. But unfortunately, in 2014, these mines were withdrawn and cancelled. So we were unable to go ahead with our next plan, how to produce coal to methanol and then coal to liquids. So we have been sourcing coal from the domestic mines, like from Coal India and Mahanadi coal fields. So we are buying coal having very high ash of 45 to 50%. Then we do the cleaning, that is a washing. We have a washery, and we wash it down to a level about 28 to 30% of the ash. And finally, we do the gasification in a fixed bed type gasifier supplied by Largi. And all of these gasifiers are built in India. The proprietary items were imported from Germany, but otherwise everything is built in India. So Rectistor was also built in India, and other downstream facilities were also built in India, but only the compressors and the specialty equipments, those were imported by us from Germany and also from the Western Europe. So this is what we did, and finally we could produce a good quality of syngas having very low sulfur and having a calorific value of 3,400 to 3,500. And finally, it goes to DRI kiln, which used to be basically earlier in the good old days time, all of the DRI kilns, vertical shaft DRI kilns, they were designed on natural gas. So we have replaced natural gas by syngas. So as far as the economics is concerned, the natural gas today in India, still it is about $10 to $12 per MMBTU. But coal gasification syngas equivalent, we are getting about $7 per MMBTU. So there is a good potential in this country that how to convert coal into syngas and then finally utilize to produce DRI. So side by side, we also found the possibilities of using coke oven gas, which is having 4100 calorific value. And though the composition is a little different because methane is on higher side in this coke oven gas. So today we are using 70% of syngas plus 30% of coke oven gas, and we are producing about 200 to 220 ton per hour of DRI in our mid-rex. So this is a landmark technology for Indian industry, for steel industry, how to produce steel, a clean steel through DRI route, and finally through the electric arc furnaces. Government of India have been trying a lot that the scrap policy is likely to come, and they are trying that more and more electric arc furnaces should come across the country. And this is only possible when we have a good DRI unit coupled with the local scrap availability, and finally produce clean steel through electric arc furnaces throughout the country in the regional to meet out the regional demand. And now our next target is that we will be adding another 2 gasifiers, and finally we'll be making gas to methanol, and that will be a great technology. That means it is a beginning of coal to liquid. And finally, if we compare the coal gasification versus the rotary SRN kilns today, those who are operating in the country producing sponge iron, so our cost is at least 5% cheaper than the rotary kilns or the SRN kilns. So there is a cost competitiveness, number of people required are less, the overall footprint is less, CO2 generation is less, and this is how we feel that is a wonderful technology one should do. Of course, we are number one today. We are the first company in the world who has gone into this venture to produce coal to gas and then gas to DRI. No other plant is existing in the world. This is a technological demonstration done by JSPL, and this is a path-breaking technology for the country. We always invite people from Indian industry, from government to visit to see our plant. You will not find even traces of any kind of pollutant in the plant, and overall the CO2 footprint is very low. And this is what we have been doing. Of course, we are not the first gasifier in the country. The first gasifier in the country was installed in Talcher, Government of India, to produce coal to syngas and finally syngas to fertilizers. And that plant was installed in 1971 and it was working till 1995. After 1995, this plant was stopped. It was based on Cooper's technology, and finally the plant is shut down, and now they are rebuilding a new plant, of course, with a new technology. And the other plant was Ramagundam plant, and that was also coal to gas and gas to fertilizer. So these are the two plants which were there in the country existing in 1971, but finally they ran up to 1995, and then the first path breaking technology was brought by JSPL in JSPL. We commissioned this plant and it is doing extremely well. I invite all of you, whosoever wants to visit, please visit, see the plant. Then the next technology which is coming very rapidly coming up, thanks to Mr. Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, who has been advocating for the clean energy, and he told in one of his interviews in the United States that India wants to switch over from a coal-based economy to gas-based economy. I'm sure the gas-based economy can only be made possible if we produce this 350 billion ton of coal reserves what we have, if we convert them to gas, to syngas, and syngas to SNG, or syngas to fertilizer, or syngas to producing power, then only the country can be a gas-based economy and not just by importing gas. So it's a good step. So coal to syngas or coal bed methane, or underground coal gasification, or above the ground coal gasification, any technology we can opt depending upon the kind of coal available in a different mines, and that can definitely save a lot many money. Today, countries based on blast furnace technologies, and we import a lot of coking coal in India to run our blast furnaces. I think the time has come to ponder upon how to increase capacities through electric arc furnaces route. Another point here is one nation, one electricity tariff has to be implemented as early as possible, because today the tariff in Tamil Nadu, electricity tariff in Tamil Nadu is about 14 rupees per unit. In Maharashtra, it is 12 rupees. UP, it is 10 rupees. And some of the other states ranging from 8 rupees to 10 rupees, which is a very high cost to produce steel or to make steel. We need, for a liquid steel, we need about 700 to 800 kilowatt hour. And if the power is available in one state at 4 rupees and another state at 14 rupees, then the difference is 8,000 rupees in steel making only on account of power. So I think the time has come to convert all this coal, which is there for perhaps millions of years under the bed or under the ground. I think the time has come to utilize this coal through coal gasification and finally produce power at a price of about 2 rupees 20 paisa or 2 rupees 50 paisa per kilowatt hour. And in Rankine cycle, when you use coal through boilers, then efficiency is hardly 33 to 35%. But when we produce gas and gas to turbines and a combined cycle, we can get at least 52 to 54% of efficiency, which is a right utilization of the overall energy balance. And I think the time has come that pan-India basis we should implement the uniform policy in terms of power tariff. Perhaps this is the only country in the world having 32 different power tariffs. So each state and each union territories are having different power tariff. In America, there is one tariff, Germany one tariff, France one tariff, even China is having one tariff. So, but in India, the tariff is ranging from 3 rupees to 14 rupees or 15 rupees per unit. Today in exchange, the rate is 2 rupees 20 paisa to 2 rupees 30 paisa through energy exchange. And finally, the last mile customer is getting power at 14 rupees or 10 rupees. this is something ridiculous. We have to address these issues. So to sum up, overall, the coal gasification technology is an excellent technology, path-breaking technology for steel plants to make DRI and DRI to electric arc furnaces making steel. And it's also a path-breaking technology for fertilizer plants, also for the power sector. And finally, one day, we can reduce the overall burden of importing crude in the country. Today, we import billions of dollars of crude. And once we have own coal gasification and from coal to liquid, then I think all this crude can be stopped. India is a very rich country, but people living in this country are very poor. There's an old saying, how to make the people rich and richer and richest. I mean, the solution lies with the coal utilization. I'm not in favor of burning coal in atmosphere and creating pollution or creating the environmental issues. I'm advocating today through this portal that we should go for coal to gas, gas to liquids, coal to gas, gas to DRI, and finally steel, coal to gas, gas to fertilizer. This is what the future is. And one last point: the hydrogen is is a very hot topic today. Hydrogen as a fuel, yes, the coal is the answer again, because today we are using syngas having 60% hydrogen and 30% CO. So the ratio of 2:1, and we have the facilities available that we can reach to 100% hydrogen through coal. Those technologies are existing in the world, and tomorrow we will be using hydrogen in our blast furnaces as additional fuel and to remove the PCI lines, and we'll also be utilizing hydrogen in our DRI plants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma, for that excellent exposition on coal gasification at JSPL. We certainly do hope that coal gasification becomes a mainstream technology in India for all the reasons you mentioned. And we certainly think that this is a big opportunity that India can take forward. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. We'll take a short break and then we'll go in for the panel discussion, Arnab, at 4:30 or so.
Can I do an audio check?
Arnab, is everybody online? And are we good to go in terms of the audio?
Welcome to WebEx.
Arnab, we are not audible. Yeah, better, but there's a lot of echo.
followed by #. If you do not know your attendee number, your entry is 07.
Yeah, kind of, but please, a little warpy, if you will.
ऑडियो से नहीं आ रहा है वहीं से नहीं आ रहा माइक्रोफोन तो है वही तो माइक्रोफोन है बैक करने कीबोर्ड का ठीक लगा
Okay, I think is the speakers audible, Dr. Sharma,
स्पीकर
Dr. Stevenson. Good morning, Shilas, morning, and Val. Good morning. Am I audible? The mic test is on.
चेक कर
Cyrus, you're on mute, I believe.
ये माइक पे चेक करो
Disturbance in the communication. We can.
Yeah, I think one of the voice in your
A lot of echoing is taking place. We are not able to get the clear audio.
Yeah, I can. I think you.
I think sir, let us not wait for me, and all of you are audible well. So I will I'll just start the meeting right now, and then I'll put my audio and video on.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. So I'm just starting the meeting, sir. Let us go live right now. Good afternoon, everyone. We are starting the next, we're continuing the coal gasification enabler for clean energy future. And I would request Mr. Atune Mukherjee, President and Chief Executive Officer, Anand Dostur and Co. to kindly take it forward from here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Arnab. And we have a wonderful set of speakers, distinguished speakers for the session. And we have Dr. Saraswat, who is the chairman of Coal Gasification Commission, as the keynote speaker. We have Angelos Kokinos, who is the Secretary of DOE, as one of our distinguished speakers. We have Don Stevenson from GTI, Gas Technologies Institute of US, as another speaker, and Velo Kuskra from ARI, who has been working significantly and a lot in the CO2 EOR space as one of our other speakers, distinguished speakers. Coal gasification is indeed, as Mr. V.R. Sharma said in the earlier Fireside chat, is indeed the need of the hour, need of the day for India. India's energy needs are vast and growing. In fact, it is estimated that India's share of total global primary energy demand will roughly double to over 10% by 2040. Today, its per capita electricity consumption is just about 1/3 out of the world average, and over 225 million people do not have access to reliable electricity. As we resume our growth, as India resumes its growth in the post-pandemic economy, the growth of energy and energy products also is going to be significant. At the same time, climate change potentially threatens the world with an existential crisis, and greenhouse gas emissions today stands at over 35 billion tons. Continued growth in energy demand requires that there's an urgent need to prepare India for an affordable, secure, and clean energy future. While the renewables initiative by India has been stellar as it continues to march forwards towards its target of 450 gigawatts of renewables by 2030, renewables can only address a part of the vast energy needs of India, which span from electricity, transportation, chemicals, petrochemicals, cement, and steel. India does not have much of coal, much of oil, or, for that matter, much of gas. It is largely dependent upon imports for its energy needs. In fact, India is the third largest importer of crude and fourth largest importer of LNG. But India does have coal, large amounts of coal with proven reserves of over 150 billion tons. Coal is the cheapest and most affordable form of energy for India and is largely used for power generation today. While power production through coal is the dominant use of coal, it can also be used to produce clean power, hydrogen, chemicals, petrochemicals, liquid fuels, and steel. This emission-free, high-purity CO2 stream from gasification can be affordably captured and used for oil recovery to increase domestic crude production, sequestered, mineralized, and possibly converted to synthetic fuels and chemicals. Further, combining coal with biomass and solid waste for feedstock in the future can produce net negative CO2 emissions based on syngas produced from coal. As the world transitions to a low-carbon energy future, can coal be used to enable a clean energy future? It appears that the gasification of coal, along with carbon capture, conversion, and use, holds the key to enable an affordable, clean energy future for India. Recognizing this vast potential, our Honorable Prime Minister recently announced the Coal Gasification Initiative for India to produce clean energy through the gasification of coal. If done right, India has a unique opportunity to enable an affordable and secure clean energy future through coal and help, according to our estimates, save over $20 billion of imports per year if used to its full potential. Before we start, let me say the following statement, that the sustainability and climate enemy is not coal or oil or gas or nuclear or renewables for that matter. The enemy is emissions and CO2, and that's what we should focus on. If we can harness the energy from all these sources in the most affordable manner with minimal emissions, we will usher in a low carbon and affordable energy future for India. So with that, I think we'll start the deliberations. I will start with the keynote address. The total time is about 75 minutes. I think we've got 70 minutes or so. We'll start with the keynote address from Dr. V.K. Saraswat, who is the chairman of Niti Aayog, followed by remarks by Angelos Kokinos from GOE, and then followed by about a 5 to 7 minutes address by Don from GTI and Velo for again another 5 to 7 minutes on carbon capture and CO2. And then we'll open it up for discussions and then the panel and follow it up with a Q&A. So Dr. Saraswat, would you please start with your keynote address? Hello, Dr. Saraswat. Dr. Saraswat, are you available? You're muted, it seems.
Yeah. This is Sarah, to the panelists. I would like to talk to you about the coal as a coal gasification and enabler for a clean energy future. I have a small presentation to make. If the host permit, then I would like to share that with you. Is it okay?
Absolutely, sir.
Can you see my presentation?
I think it's
Are the slides visible?
it is just showing a Airtel 4G slide. Is that the starting slide or?
No. No.
Doesn't seem to be so. We just turn it up. Are we able to? You're seeing the slide, but it's something different. It doesn't appear to be the one that you want to share. I think some technical glitches out here. Let me just try to get Arnab to see if there are some issues.
We may request Dr. Saraswat to speak, and then side by side we can try for presentation slides.
I think Dr. Saraswat, you can start speaking. Maybe that might be a better way to do it, and then we can.
I will. Hello.
Yes.
You slide. You share. You have the final file. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Okay. I think there is some problem in sharing that. So my colleague will share the slides. But there is an echo coming.
Can everybody else mute their mics, and then I think.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
There you go. The slides come up.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are talking about. There's an echo.
Sir, are you connected with two devices in your room? Kindly see.
No. I have no other device.
Okay, sir. Okay. Yes, sir. Kindly carry on. We will see the slides.
Okay. So you have coal gasification, which is what I'm talking about. Next slide. The coal resources in India is what we are talking of. The all India production of coal. No, I don't think this way we can continue. This is not echoing voice. Not. I will reconnect myself. That is the best way of doing it. I'll cut off and then reconnect.
Okay. While we're waiting,
Yeah, in the meantime, we can request the other speakers to.
yeah, I think so. Angelos, before it'll take a while for Dr. Salas to reconnect. Would you like to go ahead with your remarks? On this topic.
Yes, I would. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and good morning to some of my friends over in the United States. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today. I want to let you know that a lot of people and a lot of economists are projecting that green hydrogen is produced using renewable wind and solar would be cost competitive with hydrogen produced from renewables. One of the things that we have seen is that a lot of our studies indicate that we can now produce hydrogen from coal or even natural gas with carbon capture, with CO2 capture and storage at a cost of about $1.50 to $1.80 per kilogram. And that indeed makes it very competitive, even if one assumes that there would be significant reductions in cost for the hydrolysis process using renewables. As a matter of fact, the numbers that we have seen in the production of hydrogen from renewables range on the order of $8 to $12 per kilogram. And there's a lot of gasification technologies that are able to utilize lower cost opportunity fuels. And one of the things that we are doing is to look at those technologies as a method of generating power, but also at the same time generating byproducts that are valuable. And specifically, what we're looking at is hydrogen. So we call those generation technologies polygeneration. And if you combine that process, gasification, using things like waste coal, for example, mine refuse type coal tailings, or biomass or petroleum coke and even waste plastics, you could, with obviously CO2 capture, you could end up with hydrogen that is zero carbon emissions. And that is an area that we are very actively looking into, and it's part of our Coal First program, which is the development of a 21st century power generation from fossil fuels that has net zero carbon emissions. Of course, the issue is that we need to do this at minimal cost, and we also need to be able to provide those supplemental fuels to coal, such as plastic or biomass, in sufficient quantities to be able to achieve that goal. If, for example, one were to use about 20%, 10 to 20% biomass in this process, one could then, theoretically, with CO2 capture, you could end up with negative CO2 emissions. And that is something that we're very actively looking at it. The other thing that I want to mention is that, and I would leave some time for you in the end to ask me questions, is we have a partnership with India. The United States government has a partnership with India. It's called the Strategic Energy Partnership. We have, where we have opened significant discussions on, this discussion about gasification, along with R&D to do R&D cooperation, not only just on gasification, but also on carbon capture, utilization, and storage, and coal to products, and hydrogen production. And with that, I'm going to stop here because I would like you to, I want to give you time to get into a more detailed discussion with all the panelists on this subject. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Angelos. Dr. Saraswat, could you are you able to show the presentation now, or would you like to just kind of like speak about it, and then we can go to the other speaker?
Hello, my colleague will share, and it's already there on the screen. You can see my presentation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's looking good.
So I'm so sorry for the disturbance. There is absolutely no problem. I had to retune and reconnect. Now I think we are audible. So I'm going to talk to you about the coal as far as gasification and enabler for clean energy for India is concerned. Now, next slide, please. Then we have, if you look at the coal resources, the all India production of coal during 2019-20 was about 729 million tons. 24% of this is being imported, and we have about 326 billion tons of coal resource. That is the estimated by the Geological Survey of India at a depth of about 1200 meters. It was the number which came out in 2019. Percentage-wise, if you see, we have a proven reserve of about 42%, we have inferred reserve of 10%, and indicated reserve of about 48% or so. But the most glaring part is the low-quality coal. If you look at the blue graph, what is available here, is in terms of billions of tons, almost 170 billion metric tons of G9, G14 variety. That is the challenge which India has as far as the coal is concerned. Next, please. So India has the large, we have today the largest, that is the 7th largest economy. We are the 3rd largest energy consumer, and we are the fast growing economy. We have population and economic growth which will drive the demand for energy today. Our energy mix today, if you see, it is still by and large the coal, which is the predominant source of energy. And you have natural gas, oil, renewables, nuclear is about 23%, and biofuels and waste about 22%. So you have that kind of a scenario in which coal is still playing as a major role as far as energy production is concerned. And we have almost 97% of our Indian households are electrified today, and we have energy, the 3rd largest energy consumer. Next, please. So if you look at the total energy mix, India is moving towards a robust energy mix, focusing on sustainable energy resources such as solar and wind. As Dr. Atanu Mukherjee was mentioning, that India has a goal of reaching about 450 gigawatts of renewable energy by about 2030. And in near future, 2022, we want to reach about 175 gigawatts. And we are well ahead of the trend which we have set upon that. By about 26-27, it is expected that about 43% of the total installed power capacity will come from about clean energy sources. You see the present installed capacities are in the region of 372 gigawatts. And by 2026-27, we are likely to reach about 640 gigawatts, in which renewable will be, as on today, we are 88 gigawatts roughly, and which will go to 275. Hydro is about 45, which will go to 75 gigawatts. Nuclear, our numbers are low, 6.7. We expect to reach about 14.8 gigawatts. The coal, if you look at it, is a significant installation today, 205 gigawatts, and which is likely to go to about 240 gigawatts in the years to come. You can see the role of coal as far as India's energy mix is concerned. Next, please. In this, if you have to look at how much is the India's share of global energy demand, it will rise to 9% by about 2035. And share in primary energy consumption in 2035 is shown here. India will be about 9%. But coal will remain the dominant fuel produced in India with about 65% share of total production in 2035. Renewable will overtake oil as the second largest, increase, I think, from 4% to 14%. Oil drops from about 10% to 3% by 2035. You can see the share of coal-fired power generation will fall, but still remain substantial, going from 72% today to as low as about 42% by about 2040. So there again, you will see that coal is becoming one of the major concern. Next, please. If you see, the primary energy consumption will be dominated by coal, and the green lines are a very clear indication pillars which will continue to dictate even by about how situation where India's coal market. If you look at the snapshot, we are the fifth largest reserve, we are the fourth largest producer of coal, second largest consumer, and also we are importer, the second largest importer. And share in coal demand 65% in power and about 15% in the steel making. And our CAGR outlook is, if you look at demand side, we are financially at 11-18, about 4.5%, expected to reach 3.5% by 2030, coming down. Domestic supplies will by and large remain same. Imports will also come down from today's 7.8 CAGR to as low as 4.4%. Next, please. So this is the scenario as far as the coal is concerned. And the coal data in terms of the hard numbers is that we have 730 million tons, up to about 48% since about 2007. Coal imports about 248 million tons, out of which 52 million tons is the coking coal, and up to about 350% since about 2007. Consumption by sector, 74% by electricity generation, 16.9% by industrial sector, 5.8% for coke oven. Share of coal, 44% of the total primary energy supply and 74% of the total electricity generation. To satisfy the growing coal demand amid production shortages, imports have been increasing since last 2 decades. There is need for opting coal technologies suitable for Indian coal to lower down the import. That is our major focus now. Next, please. We have a major commitment which we have made to the global international community. Our India's INDC targets for meeting the climate change commitments are: emissions have to be reduced by about 30 to 35% from 2005 level by about 2030. 40% of the total power capacity to come from the non-fossil fuel-based energy sources, and carbon sink of about 2.5 to 3.0 billion tons of CO2 through additional forest by about 2030. This is the commitment in COP21 we have made, and I think India is well committed towards these objectives. Coal and renewable energy will play a major role. Next, please. In that particular context, this graph really shows what is the kind of contribution of the various sources as far as the carbon dioxide emissions are concerned. So our focus is on developing efficient technologies to minimize impact on CO2 emissions. Starting from the brown coal, which gives you the highest megawatt of electricity. Then comes a black coal, pulverized coal, which is the current technology. Then, of course, we come down when we go into supercritical and ultra supercritical plants with black coal, and later on integrated with the IGCC, you are likely to get high thermal efficiencies, and also CO2 will come down. Then you have direct IC engines with integration of the gasification with the fuel cell. You will have better efficiencies, and directly fuel cells, you will reach 60%. So this is the kind of scenario as far as the minimization strategy of CO2 emissions are concerned, which will also be related to improvement in the thermal efficiency. Next, please. If you look at the only answer we find is to resort to clean coal technologies. And clean coal technologies, both in the processes of clean processing, clean conversion of the coal conversion technologies, combustion and power generation technologies, emission control and waste recycling technologies, all form part of our clean coal technology endeavor. Next, please. And what is this clean coal technology we are talking of? We are talking of technologies with near zero emissions, where all environmental concerns over the use of coal with regard to criteria pollutants like sulfur dioxide, NOx, and particulate matter and greenhouse gas emissions have to be reduced. We have emerging CCTs like integrated gasification and combined cycles. We have ultra supercritical combustion. In fact, we are also working today in India on advanced ultra supercritical, wherein we are going to operate at almost about 740 to 760 degrees Celsius temperatures. Oxy-fuel combustion, carbon capture and utilization, these are some of the areas in which both the areas where coal is being used for either combustion or gasification. In areas where we are using combustion today, we are switching over to efficient combustion like advanced supercritical and so on. And gasification, we are all looking at IGCC and other hybrid cycles. Next, please. So all the steps which are there in the clean coal technologies, right from preparation coal to coal beneficiation, coal blending, coal liquefaction, underground coal gasification, these are some of the areas which are being explored today. Burning of the coal in the boilers and other places like combustion pathways, various combustion pathways where you can reduce the CO2 emissions, and gasification pathways where you can again follow a route which will be much more environmental friendly, or post-burning exercises like carbon capture, storage and utilization, or combined cycles. So these are the various areas in which the work in this country is presently being undertaken. Next, please. For example, we see our present status is that we are currently at an efficiency of about 40 to 45%, both with pulverization, gasification, where we are actually working with supercritical and then switching over to ultra supercritical. Mid-term, when we go to advanced ultra supercritical and oxy-fuel combustion, you will have about 45 to 50%, and long-term, you are likely to get more than 50%. So this is the kind of clean coal technology scenario as far as we are concerned. And gasification, we go for integrated gasification and combined cycle, along with the fuel cell technologies and other fluidized bed kind of gasification cycles and things like that. And most important thing, it is entire thing will be integrated with the carbon capture, sequestration, utilization technology. So that will ensure that we have a fairly low carbon footprint when we use coal. That is the kind of scenario which we are working on. Next, please. So coal gasification, not only it is part of the creation of syngas, which is used for a variety of applications, starting from fertilizers, steel, chemical, refinery, creating a new fuel, petrochemicals, and so on. So this is the one area which is of great importance for us, we are concerned. Next, please. So coal gasification process, which differs widely on the nature and pressure, gasifying agent used, the way by which the contact between gas and solid is made, the way heat is produced and transferred, and the minerals removed as dry ash or slag. And this is very important for our coals because we are having high ash content coal in our scenario. type of reactors which most of you are knowing: moving bed, fluidized bed, combined fluidized bed, and train bed, and variety of technologies which are already in the literature and also being practiced by many countries. But what is suitable for India is the issue. Whether it is fluidized bed for the highest content core, or it is entrained bed for the highest content, or a plug flow reactor, these are the issues which need answers. And that is where the international experience of various nations where such coals have been used will be of great importance and use to us. Next, please. So this is a typical cleaner IGCC cycle where converts coal to synthesis gas, carbon capture and sequestration. We have a major R&D focus in this case is reducing the plant cost and increasing efficiency and enable cost competitive CO2 capture, and that is the most important part. Next. If you see the scenario as far as the carbon capture is concerned, you will notice that the cost is a Japanese figure which has been taken, where you will see that now a method to increase the CO2 concentration of exhaust, that is the chemical absorption method is there, and oxygen combustion method is there. These are the two methods which you. Around 2020, you have physical absorption method where absorbing CO2 into physical absorption liquid for separation using the high pressure. That is the one. But ultimately, we are going to have solid sorbent, a method to reduce the required energy and separate CO2 by combining sorbents such as amines with a solid body instead of solvents. And finally, it will be, I think, the membrane-based systems where a method of separation CO2 by using membrane will be a most cost-effective solution. Present methods are fairly costly even today, but I think as the time goes and the technology goes by 2030, we will have a significant drop in the carbon capture and utilization technologies. Next, please. The benefits of the coal advantage of using domestic coal in the eco-friendly manner. This process is around 17 to 30% more efficient than conventional coal burning to produce electricity. Hence, it reduces the dependency on coal mining for energy generation power plants. It can hydrogen economy, it can be used. I think the previous speaker was talking about coal and hydrogen economy. They are combined. It can be used in hydrogen fuel cell production because gasification of coal is one method that can produce power, liquid fuel, chemical, and hydrogen. And then, of course, reduce fiscal deficit because import will be reduced, decrease the transportation costs. Transporting gas is cheaper, so we have to find better methods of transporting coal and great efficiency than conventional coal burning. That is the advantage. Next, please. So, Indian coal gasification scenario today, we have two major projects. One is the Talcher fertilizer project where we are gasifying highest content coal by mixing it with petcoke using the entrained brain process, which has been used in China, and I think Air Products is a major provider of technology. The Coal India Limited is also exploring the possibilities to venture into coal to methanol plant into Dankani coal complex. Then, of course, we have other coal fields which are also going to be active like Andal, Mahamaya and Chhatrapur. So there's a major program in India for coal gasification. Next, please. The India coal is largely dominated by 80%, particularly with the inferior quality coal found in the depth of about 300 to 1200 meters and 40 billion tons of lignite coal, most of which are found below 300 meters. These are in the various parts of country. So challenges are environmental concern, as many of the coal blocks are in ecological sensitive areas. We have suitable coal, though technically feasible, the number of sites geologically and hydrologically suitable are limited. Inconsistent supply of syngas. Both the flow and heating value of gas fluctuate. This is another major problem. And economies of scale. Without economies of scale operation, the project will not be very viable. This is another challenge which we have to face. So we have to go for larger and larger plants. But we have to reduce the capital cost of setting up the plant if we want to be really economically competitive. Next, please. This is reimagining the coal, where not only for the purpose of what we are doing for electricity generation, I think you have a lot of coal requirement for gasification in which hydrogen, fuel, chemicals can be done. Coal can be used for manufacturing variety of other items like structural materials, critical minerals, coking byproducts, plastic components, energy storage devices, carbon nanomaterials, carbon fibers, electrodes, and so on. Rare earth materials from the ash and other minerals like quantum dots from the shale and so on. So this is we call it reimagining coal, and not only just for the energy but for variety of applications where the coal can be made use of. So it makes value added product addition, and hence it makes it more viable if you look at it in its total integrated as a refinery, coal refinery as we call it. Next please. So I think this was being talked that we have production of low carbon hydrogen, optimized use to blends to attain net negative emissions. So coal gasification with carbon capture, the blue hydrogen, or today it is being done by natural gas steam reforming in carbon capture, green hydrogen where you renewables using electrolysis of water, and white hydrogen where biomass coal, MSW gasification with carbon capture. By 2030, we expect that we will develop turbines capable of 100% hydrogen combustion, and 2035 produce hydrogen from blends of coal, biomass, and MSW at commercial scale, and that will be that will support the future as we call is a hydrogen economy future. Next, please. This is what is happening in conjunction with the energy efficiency and renewable deployment in the power sector. A 10% penetration of hydrogen with supply from coal gasification with CCS and renewable-based electrolysis can help reduce India's 2050 carbon emissions. So this is one area where demand will be for fuel cell vehicles, heat supply and power, and supply will be through the coal gasification with CCS, renewable energy used for electrolysis. This is the kind of scenario which will be adding to the hydrogen economy. While people are talking about 2050, we certainly want to accelerate the whole process and bring it by 2035 as early as possible so that we can have affordable hydrogen from the coal and the renewable energy. Next, please. So if you can see this here that for advanced natural gas reforming costs would increase by 13%, while for hydrogen from coal gasification costs would decrease by 11% by about 2050. This is the kind of estimates which have been made by various analysts so far. Next, please. If you now see, a lot has been talked about coal, and people have got a lot of misconceptions about coal. I call clean coal has misappropriated to a straw man argument. We are beating each other's argument. There's no doubt. Gasification is not the enemy of renewable technologies. It is hand in gloves. Gasification is a transition technology. Maximize efficiency, use the whole buffalo. Legitimately address CO2. That is what we have to do. Align with renewables and encourage development investment in a solutions portfolio. Next, please. Next slide. So you have some real critical areas for the coal gasification, which needs even today, after so many years of work which has been done by various people, you need key technology areas where the research is required to be done. One is the process identification for syngas and hydrogen, where research addresses control of chemical reactions in increasingly modular and intrinsically efficient reactors, allowing for smaller reactors and streamlined process systems for gasification of coal into syngas cleanup, and syngas conversion. Air separation technology, this is another area which needs our focus, where we can reduce the cost of producing oxygen, which is used for gasification. Coal biomass to liquids and poly generation is another area of focus. And last one I mentioned already, the blue hydrogen and negative carbon dioxide emission. So these are the research areas which needs to be further worked upon to ensure that we have efficient, affordable process which will make coal gasification competitive with the natural gas and other sources through which it has to compete today. Next, please. So, role of our Niti Aayog, we are practically today Indian coal gasification mission is being spearheaded through the Coal Ministry and Niti Aayog. Ministry of Coal is drafting a policy on thermal coal gasification and incentivize coal gasification and liquefaction through the rebate of 20% revenue sharing. The Ministry of Coal is planning to utilize all coal up to G6 to G7 for fuel and chemical production through gasification. Niti Aayog and Ministry of Coal are working towards realizing a pilot project of carbon capture and utilization by recycling CO2 from power plants for methanol production. Next, please. So this is the scenario, and we have a roadmap for our strategic vision for 2030, where we are transforming fossil fuel energy system for the future, develop technologies to enable highly flexible and reliable power systems with carbon neutral or net negative emissions, modernize the existing coal plants to achieve far greater efficiency, flexibility and resilience. This is another option we are doing. Integrate hydrogen production and storage to support grid flexibility and resilience. Optimize the environmental performance of energy systems, reducing impacts on water and other resources. Managing carbon with confidence. I already mentioned to you that there is an experimental method by which CCU is going to be our major focus. Next slide, please. You have reimagining coal. So we are not only looking coal for generation of power, we are looking coal as a refinery for value-added products and coal-based resources across the economy, creating opportunity with analysis and engagement, and a huge R&D as far as the coal gasification, carbon capture and utilization, electrolysis, fuel cell technologies, all put together, and also complete value chain for making from coal to chemicals, coal to fuel, coal to solid product, coal to carbon, and so on. So it's a complete island of coal gasification, which is what is being researched and worked out in India to ensure that we have a very, very cost-effective method of using coal, and thereby reducing our import for energy of the fossil fuels and reducing the carbon dioxide emission. Next, please. I think I stop here. Thank you very much. I hope this covers most of it, what I wanted to say. Sorry to have taken a little extra time, but I thought I'll give a complete picture of what India is doing in this regard.
Thank you, Dr. Saras, for that wonderful, enlightening address and talking about our strategies for India in terms of using coal in a clean manner across the entire spectrum of industries. I would like Don to take off from there and just talk a little bit about gasification, because that becomes a key strategy in terms of really looking at clean coal technologies. We'd love to understand and hear from you a little bit more about what GTI has been doing in the space, and specifically with respect to high ash coals and net negative emissions, and how we're moving forward. So maybe you want to do it early because we are running out of time probably, but if you've got 5 minutes, sorry about that, but we just got to kind of get into discussions pretty shortly.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, thank you for the opportunity to talk today with you all. I really appreciate this invitation so we could share with you a little bit about what GTI is looking at with regard to gasification technologies, particularly for the Indian challenges that are faced. And as the previous speakers have mentioned, there's significant interest in looking at technologies that can address low-rank coals that are predominant in India, as well as looking at ultimately production of hydrogen and incorporation with carbon capture to get potentially even net negative emissions. So we're doing some interesting things in that respect. Let me share a few charts if I could here. Hopefully I won't have the same challenges that Dr. Saraswat had.
I think you're getting there.
Okay, so let me close that. All right, so you can see the presentation okay?
Yeah, looking good.
Okay, so GTI has been working in the gasification space for decades now, since 1941. We've developed a number of different technologies and commercialized technologies such as the UGAS gasification process in the late 90s and mid 2000s. And then more recently, we've been spearheading the effort to advance and train flow gasification with our R-gas technology, which is now being scaled up commercially in China. So I'm going to talk about those two technologies and kind of where they fit here, kind of a unique space, and particularly when you look at the low-rank coals in China, as well as in India. The R-gas and train flow technology works at a much higher temperature than conventional train flow technology, so we're able to handle the very high ash fusion temperatures, well above 1500 degrees centigrade, and stay above the slagging limits for those normally difficult to gasify coals. And then our fluidized bed technology, which is UGAS, it has a much shorter residence time than typical moving or fixed bed gasifiers like Lurgi or BGL, and operates at a slightly higher outlet temperature. So it kind of fills that gap in between what's available now in the entrained flow and other conventional moving and fixed bed technologies. The RGAS technology is just now being scaled up to commercial readiness. We have a demonstration plant that's just been built, and it's undergoing commissioning in China at 800 tons per day. But we do have plans to take that up to 3,000 tons per day to offer it commercially. And the advantage here is technology that's lower cost, which Dr. Saraswat has mentioned is critical for achieving opportunities with IGCC and other applications. So it's really an opportunity to make lower capex as well as lower opex relative to other existing technologies. From an environmental perspective, also reduce water usage. And then last but not least, higher efficiency because of the high temperature and high mixing and high reaction kinetics that the injection technology creates. And as I said, this is being demonstrated now in China. We've got this 800 ton per day demonstration plant built. It's undergoing commissioning. We did unfortunately suffer some delay here because of the COVID-19 outbreak, so we have not had our full team in China since February, but we're working creatively through that process and trying to get ready for full commissioning in the coming months, and hopefully we can get back into that and have that demonstrated with data here shortly next year. The UGAS technology, which has been all commercialized now at commercial scale, both in Europe and in China, offers a lot of flexibility. We're looking at technologies that can provide proven capability for biomass and biomass coal blends, particularly now in light of the interest in looking for net negative solutions or at least net zero emission solutions. This is quite intriguing. And for very low rank coals, high ash coals, this is a suitable option and we think preferable to technologies such as BGL, since this offers no tars or oils in the syngas. So this technology had, I should mention, been licensed to a company called Synthesis Energy Systems. That group is no longer a viable entity, and the license is now been revoked, and so the technology is being offered by GTI for distribution around the world. This technology, as I said, has been commercialized. It goes back to 1975. It has been deployed for both complete biomass options in Europe, as well as multiple commercial scale plants in China for coal and low rank coals. Two projects I just wanted to highlight real quickly that we were just awarded with partners here in the United States, and in keeping with the projects that Angelos had mentioned at the beginning of the session, the Wabash Valley Resources, that's the hydrogen production project, taking the existing IGCC plant in Wabash Valley and repurposing it to produce hydrogen from petcoke and biomass. With 12% biomass blended with petcoke, they're able to achieve zero CO2 emissions, so basically net zero. If we increase the biomass blend, we actually then get net negative. That includes CO2 capture at a nearby CO2 preparation site. And it's very compelling, looking at potentially hydrogen production costs less than $1 per kilogram. So this is a significant project now underway to do getting underway to do the front-end engineering. And we'll see, I think, this get deployed very quickly since we're leveraging substantial existing assets that are already in place. And the second project, which GTI is also supporting, is with our gasification technology, UGAS that I just mentioned, is a net negative carbon power and hydrogen project similar to the Wabash Valley, but this would be a new system, slightly smaller, looking at 50 megawatt electric biomass and coal, net negative emissions. This is also a feed front-end engineering design project looking at 2 different sites in Nebraska. And they're anticipating also pretty low net hydrogen production costs of around $2 per kilogram. And as Angelos noted, we look at all the different potential sources for hydrogen. I think this is quite intriguing now when we look at the significant increase in interest in clean hydrogen for various applications and markets. Renewables are on the right, just very expensive still. Yes, the cost is coming down. There's significant investment going in to that area, but it's highly challenged to get down to the numbers that are competitive economically with current hydrogen production coming from natural gas reforming. But if you look at the lower left, right, coal gasification with carbon capture, looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.60 per kilogram, very, very attractive, and we think will be a growing area of interest as we go forward. So anyway, we have, I think, some interesting technologies that we can provide here for various different applications, particularly with high ash fusion temperature coals with the entrain flow technology we're now deploying, as well as the low rake high ash coals like in India with UGAS, and perhaps a combination of the two, looking at applications with biomass and waste blending to achieve low, zero, or even net negative hydrogen, net negative carbon emission hydrogen. Be happy to address any questions when we get into the Q&A session, but
Great.
my remarks. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Don. Don, I think Dr. Saraswat and Angelos, all of us talked about the whole need for carbon dioxide capture and the use of carbon dioxide captured for use in converting into products or, for the purpose of storage, sequestration, or something called EOR.
Yes.
Velo and Velo, has been running ERI for quite some time, and he's an expert in the area of how to use carbon dioxide for something called enhanced oil recovery. That may be particularly relevant in the Indian context in terms of getting more oil out using CO2 in a carbon negative manner, if you will, from the aging oil field. So Velo, if you can, we got a few minutes, and I know we are kind of like running short on time so that we can leave some time for questions. So if you can just help us with your presentation. Well, you're not audible. Hello? Hello, hello? You're not audible. We need to be... Do you unmute yourself?
I'm on the phone.
Okay, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. All right. Can you hear me through my mic?
Yes.
All right. All right. So let me go on to the next slide. We're a company that's been underway for nearly 50 years. We do a lot of work international, from A to Z, Australia to Zimbabwe. We're a geology, petroleum engineering, and strategic and economic analysis company, and specialize in enhanced oil and gas recovery and the geological storage of CO2, and particularly integrating these two technologies. Just a quick look at some of our clients on the right, a number of power companies. There you see we've worked with Reliance Energy in India for since the early 1990s, also with SR, a number of other companies, and a lot of it on coal bed methane and the identification of gas shales to add to the gas resource of India. Next slide, please. Okay. So let me start with what's the status of enhanced oil recovery in the U.S. We produce about 300,000 barrels a day, and the CO2 comes from two sources. About 2/3 of it, let's call it basically 2 BCF a day, which is about 40 million metric tons a year. Those of you think in metric tons terms. But an increasing amount is coming from what I call industrial or anthropogenic CO2. And so we're storing about 20 million metric tons of CO2 using enhanced oil recovery. And that's about half of the total storage that's taking place throughout the world. There are about 141 projects. And on the map, what you see, if you look kind of in the center with the blue dots, that's the CO2. And I will look at this in more detail. No, that's the CO2 that's coming into our Great Permian Basin. There are 500-mile pipelines that bring CO2 from source to, let's call it, the sink. And then in the squares in that center are natural gas plants and other sources of CO2 that is being captured and productively used for enhanced oil recovery. There are four other settings. A new pipeline, CO2 pipeline along the Gulf Coast. It started with natural CO2, but since then has picked up a variety of industrial sources for use in the oil fields. Also, an extension of an old CO2 pipeline in the Rockies that takes the CO2 from the gas plants up to, all the way basically up to Montana and the Dakotas. And then I'll also take a look at our parallel coal gasification project in North Dakota, which takes the CO2 up to Canada. It's about a 200-mile pipeline in that direction. Okay. Next slide, please. So a little deeper look at the Great Permian Basin, a variety of pipelines, a variety of distribution systems, and some very new efforts. You can see those in red, tall cotton, as well as South Hobbs and so on. So even in these challenging oil price times, there are some new projects have gotten started. And basically, this is the heart of our play. And there's some numbers here. About 200,000 of the 300,000 barrels a day comes from this source. And about 60% of the CO2 usage is also in the Permian Basin. Next slide, please. I do want to point out the project along the Gulf Coast, and what's really important here is the pipelines have continued to expand. First down from Louisiana to the southern Gulf Coast, and then over into Texas as well, and ultimately beginning to approach basically some of the really large East Texas oil fields. There's some great opportunities to expand this area, but it's kind of our second major area. And then next slide. I do want to talk about Weyburn. We've been able to work with Encana and now Synovos, of course, on the Weyburn project to basically bring up its efficiency and performance. And it is by far the largest EOR project in Canada. It's a massive field that holds over 1 billion barrels of oil. They expect to recover over 200 million barrels of incremental oil. So that's beginning to push about 17% or so of the original oil in place. And that's what a good EOR project should be able to do. It injects about 2.4 million metric tons a year. And it expects to ultimately store about 40 million metric tons of CO2. There is a 200-mile, as I mentioned, CO2 pipeline that takes the CO2 from the coal gasification plant in Beulah, North Dakota, across the border into the Weyburn oil field. And since then, Canada has expanded its efforts. They built a large, what's called the Alberta Carbon Trunk Line. There's a beginnings of a number of EOR projects in other countries. I'll be glad to answer those during my Q&A. In China, the beginning of projects in the Middle East, in Brazil, and a number of other countries. So I think I'll stop here, Atanu, and save some time for questions.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Velu, for that wonderful introduction to EOR and the kind of work you've been doing in US. Yeah, we certainly worked together for a couple of these projects, and I think it's very opportune for different countries where it's an opportunity to produce oil from aging oil fields, at the same time reducing the CO2 into the ground. Let's talk about a few questions, right, and some of the points that are raised by the distinguished panelists. And I think I'd like to first take the question on hydrogen, and maybe Angelos, you may want to take this, and then probably Dr. Saraswat can follow up or chip in. Certainly, yes, hydrogen is a very promising option in terms of fuel, in terms of feedstock, and it being clean is absolutely something which is very useful, by being able to take the CO2 out. The question I have is that if that is the case, how do you see hydrogen playing out in the world and in India? A lot of people have been talking about, hydrogen for mobility, hydrogen for heavy transport. It seems to me that for a country like India, replacement of power, baseload power, with hydrogen-based turbines or syngas-based turbines initially would probably be more opportune rather than mobility. Given the nature of hydrogen, given the transportation issues that we may have, it looks to me that stationary applications at large scale probably seems to be more opportune. And Angelos, do you have any comments on that? Angelos, you're muted. Maybe you need to unmute yourself.
Let me just do this. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm okay. Good. As I see the hydrogen and for generation, one of the issues that you have with hydrogen is that it's not as the amount of hydrogen that the heating value of hydrogen by volume, it's fairly low. It's about a third of natural gas. So the way I view hydrogen and the use of power generation is more as a supplemental type fuel, where you are using, for example, fossil fuel, be it natural gas or in this case coal with gasification, and you use the gasification to provide power during normal generation when the peak is needed, and then at the time where there is no need, you're generating hydrogen on the side that it can then be used as a chemical or as a transportation type fuel, and of course all of this needs to be combined with CO2 capture. The problem that I think that India is probably going to be facing is that the CO2 storage side could be an issue, because I don't believe that India has a lot of space for geological storage of CO2, but the polygeneration concept to us it appears to be the best approach on the use of hydrogen, both as a power generation source of fuel and also as a source of chemical feedstock. I hope that I'm answering your question.
Certainly, yes. So I think that brings the follow-on question, which you talked about, is about CO2 capture, right? Now, so here is a conundrum, right? That you certainly can capture CO2 from gasification source at much lower cost because of pre-combustion, certainly much lesser than post-combustion capture systems. But again, these are very large volumes. You're talking about very large volumes of CO2 that's been captured. And if you have an issue in storage, and if the volumes that can be converted to useful products are limited by volume, how do the economics make sense for a country like India? I can understand that in the United States that you have a 45Q plan which supports credits for CO2 captured for EOR for storage. Obviously, that's an issue out here in terms of how you support it. And secondly, how do you kind of like store it, or how you use it for EOR too, for that matter, because EOR fields, if you look at it from India's perspective, are far away from the coal gasification plants that probably would be there in the eastern region. So just kind of like try to debate this into the what options make sense out here? What do you think would be possible?
Well, a couple of things. One has to do with the economics, obviously, as you mentioned, and what we see with the economics is that the other option for hydrogen is to basically use electrolysis and to use so-called, what I would call, free electricity, which is not really free from renewables. So the issue of capturing the CO2 from gasification, for example, or even for steam methane reforming, and then what do you do with it? One area would be that one needs to look at offshore storage, for example. Another area that Norway is looking at is to take the CO2 that is generated in Europe from the steam methane reforming of natural gas hydrogen production, and actually ship it out to offshore or to areas where they need the CO2. So another possibility would be shipment, for example, to the Middle East, because they do need CO2 for enhanced oil refining. But in terms of the cost, I think the economy it's either going to have to be some support from the from the Indian government in terms of something similar to what we have here of credits, tax credits, or on the other hand, if it's used for chemical production, then that excess income could provide for the cost of the CO2 capture or the production of hydrogen used for transportation, for example, is another source of income. So those are the things that I think you could probably do. I hate to use the word carbon tax too.
Yes.
That's big, but I would say I would push for the economy to pick it up, and that's why the concept of polygeneration is a good option for the economics, because you can use the power that is not needed to generate the hydrogen that is then can be put into the market as transportation fuel, as a chemical feedstock.
Yes, absolutely.
Can I add to that?
Yes, fellow. Yes,
what
please.
Angelos has said?
Yes.
India does have quite mature oil fields, and particularly you mentioned the offshore. The Bombay High fields are way past their prime, and they also have saline aquifers below them to expand the capacity. There are onshore fields in basically Gujarat, Assam, Rajasthan that are also quite mature. And then there's potential to store the CO2 in coal seams, in gas shales, assuming that they have good properties. And so we're actually doing this kind of study for Australia right now to look at where are their enhanced oil recovery storage options and how can they be expanded through a variety of ways. And I think this would be a very, productive and attractive next step to take a very serious look at where you could productively use this CO2 and, in the first instance, to add to enhanced oil recovery.
Absolutely. And I think, Velo, there have been some talks about utilizing container ships, for example, liquefied container ships to ship carbon dioxide, like the Northern Lights projects in Norway, and maybe we could do CO2 export out to the Middle East, like Angelos talks about. We could also look at the Indian Peninsula and do seawide shipping, right, to Bombay High, for example, or into Gujarat. It's about $10 per ton, approximately, of CO2 transport cost. So those are options, and I think we need to explore this in the right way to figure out a way, how can we make this feasible, right, in terms of storage as well as UR options, which is also economically viable, because end of the day, if it's not economically viable, it doesn't make sense, right? So how do we...
I might add also, Tom, I didn't hear today talked about, but there are a lot of studies going on looking at, because of the challenges of hydrogen transportation and distribution, looking at converting to ammonia, make it simpler for distribution or transportation. That may be an option where infrastructure challenges are so difficult, like in India, or maybe even modular, more distributed generation, looking at trying to better co-locate the generation with POR opportunities.
Absolutely, Don. That's certainly an option. That's certainly an option. Yeah. Yes, Angelos.
I just want to reemphasize, I think, something that both Don and Velo mentioned, and we see it in the United States, and we have about 4,000 miles, as Velo mentioned, of CO2 pipeline. The logistics and the infrastructure that is required, it's not a simple task. So I think that's something that India needs to be looking at if you are going to have some serious discussion about CO2 capture, and then what do you do with it, and where do you send it to? So the logistics.
Let me add on to Angela's
Dr. Saraswat.
if you have large-scale pipelines, CO2 transportation, while it looks daunting at first, can be quite efficient. On the order of $5 to $7 a metric ton at scale, but it has to be at scale. The other point is we have looked at the enhanced oil recovery potential in the Middle East. And the thing that always comes up is where's the CO2 be from? And we've even looked out as far as 500 miles from the fields, and there's very little opportunity for captured CO2. So the shipping option that you talked about, Atanu, it's being demonstrated at Northern Lights in Norway. I think if you can build on that and build on that with scale in terms of shipping, same concept as pipelines, I think provides an additional serious opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Saraswat, you're trying to say something. I think you're muted. Can you unmute yourself, sir?
The issue about CO2 transportation is relevant only if you are looking at uses of CO2 for enhanced oil recovery kind of an activity, or underground storage in salt caverns and things like that. Right now, in the context of the economy, what we are talking of, particularly with the coal-based systems, what we want to do, we should look at the sources of production of carbon dioxide. And bulk producers of CO2 are steel power plants, cement power plants, the thermal power plants, what we have today, which are the major sources where from you get the bulk CO2 coming out. The economic strategy would be to not worry about transportation, rather than co-locate the CO2 to the chemical conversion, CO2 to the fuel conversion, CO2 to the hydrogen conversion, in such a manner that you have minimum transportation requirement, thereby making this as a refinery, as I mentioned in my talk, with value-added products with a minimum extended distances for transportation of carbon dioxide. I think if you look at that as the economic model, the carbon dioxide sequestration of the utilization will make sense. If you accept on in the case where you have enhanced oil recovery as one of the utilization which you are talking of, there again I agree with the other panelists where if you go for CO2 compression and then the transportation, I think it will be useful, subject to, of course, the kind of quantities which you are transporting. If you are transporting very small quantities, then the cost of capex is very high. If you have huge quantities to be transported, I think it is again an economy of scale will play the major role, and you will get in the region of $3 to $4 and so on. That is the kind of numbers which will certainly be useful for EOR applications. When it comes to making use of CO2, I think it is better to produce, as I think Mr. Stevenson mentioned, that it is better to produce ammonia or methanol. We're using the CO2 with the renewable hydrogen which is available, and then you have no problem of storage, no problem of transportation, and you have ready-made carrier of electricity available anytime. Then you take the case of hydrogen and any of these fuels, particularly methanol. If you take methanol as a fuel, it is a transportation fuel, it is an energy fuel, it is a cooking fuel, and hence it meets all the requirements. And ultimately, if you are looking at hydrogen as a automobile fuel, then using the fuel cell combination, take methanol, reform into hydrogen onboard a commercial vehicle, and then drive the fuel cell. So there again, you have a very good option available. If you combine all of them and you do the techno-commercial analysis, I find that co-located polygeneration-based hydrogen system from the coal-based systems will be the best answer for driving the tomorrow's economy. Otherwise, actually sequestration word is not there now. It is carbon utilization. It is CO2 utilization. The S has been dropped now. It is CCU. It is not CCS, it is CCU. And CCU is the one which is going to give you the economy what we are talking about.
Thanks, Dr. Sarth. Angelos, I want your views on that. One of the things that we know, for example, is that conversion of carbon dioxide has limitations in terms of economics. And looking at the technology time constants of development of technologies in chemical engineering and chemical processes, 15, 20 years. For example, if I want to convert CO2 into methanol, for example, right? Today in Iceland it is done, but the cost of that production is about $560 per ton. You have limitations at the same time, so you have those opportunities of co-location.
Sorry, I would like to correct you on that. Today, the cost of producing methanol from carbon dioxide using renewable hydrogen is coming down less than $300 or $250. That is the kind of numbers which are coming. Iceland cost, that's why they have stopped, because they had a problem, not because of the hydrogen generation, but they had a problem of CO2 capture, and that's why, and the economy of scale was so poor that they were producing at that time at 500. At that time, the global prices of the cost of methanol was running in the region of $400 to $450. But no more, it is the same number. That number has come down drastically. Today, in the international market, the methanol prices are less than $200 a ton. So that is a kind of scenario, both from SMR reforming, as well as from the coal, as well as from other sources like biomass. Biomass, certainly it is slightly costly even today, but other sources are giving methanol at a much lower price.
Right. So I think the question that I think we just want to kind of get a little bit more understanding.
Technologically, as far as there are no technology unknowns for producing methanol from carbon dioxide and hydrogen. It is a well-researched, well-known technology. There are no issues at all.
Yeah, I think though.
Scale.
Yeah, I think though that the implementations of that today are limited, right? I would just like to shift a little bit more in terms of how you think
Dr. Mukherjee, I would like to say, I think we have to look at why this limitation is there today. This limitation is there because the other sources of producing methanol, using the low-cost natural gas available across, and particularly in America and other places. As a result, despite the fact that they have huge coal reserves, they will not like to use it because it is cheaper for them to use natural gas for doing anything. So I think to say that it is limited, it is just because of the alternate means which are cheaper available today. But a country like India, where there is no natural gas, where I'm importing all my oil, where I'm importing all my LNG, and I have huge reserve of coal, what should be my option? My option would be to do economy of scale and produce things using this particular technology, and also reduce the carbon footprint by converting CO2 into usable chemicals and fuels and fertilizers and products. That is the kind of scenario which will be more useful for us. And let's not compare it with places where a huge amount of natural gas and other resources for producing chemicals are available.
Okay, let's shift gears a little bit, and maybe the last question that I would like to ask is, we have this situation about utilizing gas in India, right? And I think
let me just make a point on this because it's important. Conversion of CO2 to chemicals it's a good thing, but one of the issues that we are running into is the amount of CO2 available. We did a quick study on CO2 to methanol. And if you took the equivalent of CO2 emissions from 10 gigawatts of electric coal power production, you would flood the market. It's equivalent to the entire production of methanol in the United States. So the issue is not so much economics, but it's the size of the feedstock that you have. And it needs to be, why we're looking at it is more for us to be having some options as an enhanced economics for the overall process, such that you can look at and take some costs out of the capture and storage of the CO2.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Angelos. The last question, probably we got time for maybe a minute or so. One of the things, Dr. Saraswat, I think you've been talking about is, as India converts into a gas-based, increasingly a gas-based economy, hopefully, what are the opportunities of really spiking LNG, for example, with hydrogen produced from coal gasification plants, SNG produced from coal gas, and then bringing down the cost of the fuel, right? Probably at about the same value of the overall energy value, and transporting it across the gas grids. How do you think that'll shape out? In fact, as you know, I think in India, 18% is possible, right? Is being done by OCL and H2 spiking. In the United States, probably 30% can be done, as been shown, using natural gas pipelines. What are your thoughts on that?
I think India is already into this, spiking the 18% hydrogen onto the LNG today, CNG today, what we are doing. And we had kept this limit of 18% because then this is for automobile commercial applications, commercial vehicle applications, because with 18% there is no need for any modifications in the engine or any other system as far as the automobile is concerned. The moment you increase the percentage of hydrogen beyond 18%, I think if I'm not wrong, I may be corrected because I don't have exact data on that. But I think you need to do certain modifications, which is again a major issue as far as the implementation strategies are concerned. I would say in India, while yes, I agree with you that we have embarked on gas-based economy because of the globally low-cost gas available now. Now, you have to also see today the landed cost, even with less than $2 at the well kind of a price of LNG, and by the time it lands in India, and by the time it is actually made for any usable purpose, it goes to something like $5 to $7 per MMBTU. So that is the kind of figures we are having. If I want to now compare this LNG cost and the cost of infrastructure required for setting up an LNG economy in the country. I recently saw a paper where there was a demand for, not for collection, it was for distribution of LNG and putting it in storage. That kind of a thing and distribution itself was needing something on the order of 63,000 crores. Now, if I'm ready to invest 63,000 crores on the LNG infrastructure, now you can imagine if you invest the same thing on carbon dioxide capture and converting them into the kind of fuels which we are talking of, which is a better option, because at least we avoid the import of LNG. It's not only the infrastructure cost, even though you may be importing at $5 or $2 or $3, but that's an imported cost. Whereas in this particular case, your import is not involved. You have your own fuel available, and hydrogen and methanol. Hydrogen in electricity are completely reversible processes. They are available for whole thing. So why not pitch in with that kind of money, that kind of resources in that direction, rather than spending so much money on a resource which is not available in my country, and I depend on America, Canada, Abu Dhabi or Kuwait or Middle East countries and all that. And we do not know strategically is it the wise thing to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I personally believe, yes, government has taken a decision for going for gas-based economy, but other options also should be kept alive.
Okay, fantastic. I think we've run out of time, gentlemen. This has been a fantastic session. It's been great set of ideas, great set of expositions by our distinguished speakers, a wonderful debate. We look forward to coming together again shortly in the future, as I think this whole gasification-based economy evolves in India. Thank you again, gentlemen, very much, and I'll give it to Arnab now to take it over for the last.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I would request Mr. P.K. Mukherjee to kindly conclude the session with his vote of thanks. Mr. Mukherjee.
Thank you. Take care.
Mr. Mukherjee, over there.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You're audible, sir.
Okay. Before the participants starts leaving the virtual session, let me thank first all the participants who have gone through the whole day, and we are really thankful to all the speakers right from the opening session of Mr. Dev Mukherjee, who has set the tone for the whole day and for the second day also. And right now, we have a very interesting session just now concluded, led by Mr. Atanu Mukherjee, and Mr. Saraswat is still there, and our good friends from the Western Hemisphere are still there. We are thankful to all of them, and for the full day we had a lot of interesting sessions, right from coal mining, future of coal mining, some session on iron ore mining also. So we are thankful to everybody and looking forward to another day of fruitful deliberations tomorrow. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would request all the participants and all the speakers, if you may kindly join through our clouds. Tomorrow we have a very interesting sessions on steels which are coming up. So tomorrow the program will start from 11:30, and the theme of tomorrow's program will be Indian steel industry facing the challenges of new normal and beyond. We have very eminent speakers like Director Commercial Sales, Mr. Sharma, Mr. Dilip Puman, CEO ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel, Mr. Pankaj Balan, CEO Vedanta Electric Steel Limited, Mr. Rajiv Mohan Sherry, MD of the company Limited. Then we have, of course, the chairman of the same, Mr. Anil Kumar Chaudhary, also Mr. P.K. Bushtan, former CMD RINL, Mr. P.K. Roth, chairman and MD of RINL, Dr. Vinod Bewal, Deputy MD JSPL Steel Limited, Mr. Anil Arvind, MD Paul Worth India Limited, and Mr. R.K. Sharma, Secretary General, Federation of Indian Mineral Industries, PIMI, Mr. Pankaj Sabida, Chief Executive of Tata Steel, Dr. Nick Senapati, President, Australia India Business Council, Mr. N.C. Shah, Managing Partner, Palfic Consortium and former CMD Coal India Limited, Mr. Kaushal Sinha, Senior VP and Business Unit with Metals and Mining and Industry and Co. Mr. Rana Shah will be there, Mr. Rajiv Mehta will be there, Mr. B.K. Mukherjee will be there from our committee, Mr. Bhattachandra Gupta will be there from our committee, will be moderating the session. We look forward for your participation tomorrow. We'll start exactly at 11:30. Thank you all. Thank you. We'll conclude the day one over here.
Thank you so much.